Alright guys, I have a treat for you today with Guntank livestream analysis. I'm going to talk about this character and try and find some merits in it because it's interesting to say the least, but let's just go into it. So first thing you guys need to know is that Guntank's ability is aimed, auto-aimed within this large rectangle, its primary fire. And when you scope it down, it becomes more accurate and it chooses a target. However, it still just doesn't do a lot of damage regardless, so it's really not what you should be majorly looking to do with it. Not like there's that much else amazing to do with Guntank. I'm really hoping to see some Guntank buffs because this character's looking like the absolute troll pick. Like more troll than I've seen in any game so far. But it has this ability right here that you can see where it launches a slow-moving projectile. It's a little bit of a confusing of an animation, but it launches a projectile. I'm not sure what the max damage is on it, but hitting a target that's moderately near it does about 250. In addition to all of Guntank's other abilities do 250 damage too. The charge ability does 250 damage also. The ultimate does a lot more though, which is basically Junkrat's tire from Overwatch. That's actually a good ultimate though, so that is one of its biggest strengths. In addition to the fact that it does have a good amount of HP and it has good movements. But the way that it ends up feeling is that it basically just has good mobility and good HP, but to kind of do nothing until it's gotten its ult available. So it doesn't have to reload, which is one benefit, but its attacks do overheat, as you can see right here. You can see the little bar start ticking up. If it gets to the top, it goes on a long reload animation, which you don't want to have happen. Here's the ultimate. It's a little bit tricky to use. It bounces around awkwardly, but you have a lot of mobility, a lot of ability to control it regardless. You are stationary while using it, just like Junkrat's tire, although I'm not sure if you can die during the process, so we'll have to see exactly how all that goes. Here we're going to see this character trying to 1v1 a Marase. Let's see how it goes. There's actually an additional ability where you can quickly resurrect teammates also, but it still requires you to get close to them, which is another reason why I'm just saying a little bit strange. Little strange character, to be honest. Here you can see that he held his primary fire for too long, and he hit the cooldown limit, and it's taking a really long time to cool down. So you have to pay attention to that on this character. Also, this character has a really big hitbox, so if it didn't have that extra HP, it would be even worse than it is. But yeah, and so here's something that is actually useful to talk about, because I do eventually suspect they'll give this character buffs. Its ultimate is strong. You just have to use it correctly. You have to do it in ways where they're not going to expect it. And flying directly at the enemy is an easy way to ask for it to die. It is a pretty weak ultimate. It only has 400 HP, but in this situation, it would have been better for the Guntank player to come from the right side of the map or the left side of the map. This game does allow a lot of traversing above the map for a lot of characters. Obviously I can't play the game yet, so I don't actually know exactly how that works, but for example, Turn-A Gundam can fly above an ult above it, and I've seen lots of characters stand on top of the map as they're like, they can't fully stand, they like fall off, but you can go over there. So you can do that with the ultimate too. So there's different ways to do it, like sneak across over here, just whatever you do, just don't go from straight into the enemy. You can see the damage is pretty limited. Most of the damage was provided by his teammates there. And this is just simple gameplay understanding. Regardless of what character you're playing, if you get low, you need to slow down. There's cover for him to slow down right here. There's a health pack to his left that he can get access to. He really needs to slow down, not go crazy, and not run over and get shot and killed by a Sazabi from range. If you're getting killed from a Sazabi, you're definitely too low HP. So here we can see him hitting his rocket ability, except most of the damage does come... It looked like it did about 300 damage. See if I can do it again. I'll try and slow it down quickly. So here we have it hitting it looks like the extra set of damage. Actually, it looks like I probably did about 400. I think the second set was coming the Exia. 400, maybe 500 damage, that's a pretty solid amount. But basically, like, every ability in this game does not much for some of the characters. Like Exia, for example, does an extreme amount of damage. And it is a slow moving projectile, so it is hard to hit. But that is one thing that is relatively redeeming about this character, is that its rockets do a lot of damage if you hit them. But realistically, how often you can hit them from range like this? You're not really. As you can see, our Guntank uses them, and that does like 100 almost damage to the 3 people there. That's just not very good. But regardless of the actual character itself, all the things that you're doing with this character, in regards to general game sense and stuff like that, are still consistent. You got to make sure that you're playing cover, that you're not wasting cooldowns when you don't need them, that you don't have, if you're just not feeding. And we'll see him feed right here. He literally sits, he probably didn't know, I guess, because I really don't think they gave the developers of this game, or not the developers, they gave the people who were playing the game much time to play around with it, because they're making a lot of weird mistakes. Like, for example, I haven't seen him use it a single time of actually aiming down and doing damage. The spoiler, not the spoiler text, but the extra description of what the ability does say it does more damage if you scope down, but I think that might just mean that it does more damage because it specifies damage on one person. Otherwise, it splits damage, which is terrible. You don't want to use that. There's no reason to ever be splitting your damage like that. You always want to focus it on one person. But obviously, he needs to not let his ability, his attack over trigger. He needs to be slowing that down and not getting that cooldown. And he needs to be paying attention to this turn A Gundam. Even if this turn A Gundam is not in the room with him, if it's above, it can still deal the damage. So you have to be really careful with that. Here you can see this is kind of what I'm talking about, where if it's any other character in the game, you get the kill here. Like I said, I'm pretty certain if you scope it down, it does more damage, because a lot of these bullets do seem to be just hitting random spots. I really don't know if that's just a visual or how that works, but you should be using that scope down sights. Just tickling from range. Ashmore takes like 50 damage. Guntank does have 2 dashes, which is another strength about it, but you actually got to use them, to get value out of them. And as you can see, he kind of just sits here looking at this medicine, goes, "Oh no, I'm dying." You have to be on your feet, guys. You have to pay attention. Something that's really useful if you are learning to, or if you're trying to play the game to really improve, you want to make sure that every time you're doing it, you're working at it on a way where you're actually improving intelligently. So whenever you get into a game, whenever you load into your day of playing Gundam Evolution, just think, like, what kind of skill do I want to improve today? Do I want to improve my ability usage? Do I want to improve my positioning, whatever? And you should always be doing this generally, but if you focus on something, one thing in particular, it helps you learn a lot. That way your brain isn't split between a bunch of different things, so you can actually learn. So something like movement might be the strategy. Also, that's interesting to see how it's a slow moving projectile. You can see this this rocket here, but look how much it falls. He was aiming up, and that just shows that it has very limited range, particularly in situations like that. So wasted ult. This ultimate is a clean. Well, it's a fight winning ultimate. It is powerful. You can't deny it. This ultimate is very powerful, and it can win games for sure. Hunting down strong targets, dropping on top of a tank's head is very good. It'll one shot anything in the game if you get close enough. But you can't be using it in bad times. Obviously, this character's dead already. You want to do it in situations where both your body will be safe, because I'm quite certain you could take damage. I've never seen for certain, but you should be able to take damage during it. But you also want to do it where you can potentially like sneak it around a corner onto someone so that they don't have any time to blow it up. Or you want to be using it in like the middle of a fight when people are too distracted to do anything about it. I'm not sure if there's going to be like a really strong voice line about this. In Overwatch, every character has a really strong ultimate voice line, so you can really tell when they're using them. But if there's not in particular, that even helps. Don't use it when it's predictable. Use it in the middle of the fight when everyone has lost their cooldowns, when they're low HP, when they don't know what they're doing. And you'll sneak behind and destroy them. So this is just some standard gameplay. Nothing particular, just cleaning up kills. Ends up getting jumped on by a Barbatos. Barbatos does do a lot of damage. Shooting does shooting stops your ability to heal. So be careful about using that if you can't get healed. Another really important thing, probably one of the most important things I was going to talk about in this whole video, is as much as this character has these various abilities, the only ability that I really look at and I think like, oh wow, that's actually a good ability, is its charge ability. It basically turns Guntank into a counter dive character, like a counter dive off tank, if you will. Kind of in line of like Diva, where they have the ability to physically push people off. If an enemy comes charging, like, come attacking them, you hit the charge ability, you push them off. It allows you to play corners, shove enemies that come close to you. It's very similar to Diva's boosters. Obviously, you can't fly with it, but you can shove people with it. And if you melee when using it, it gives an additional stun, like additional shove. So that's the ability that I look at and actually think is good, and I like it on another character. For example, like right here, if you play in this corner, anything that comes through, you just shove them, deal damage, push them off, disturb them. You can do it when multiple people are walking them through a choke. It will mess them up and split them potentially. Like maybe one makes it through, one of them doesn't make it through. But there's lots of options, but that's what I personally think is the best ability. So if you haven't seen my mobile suit guides for Gundam Evolution yet, then make sure to check them out. I promise there is lots to learn from them in regards to the strengths and weaknesses of the characters, when to play them, how to play them, and all the ability information. Thanks for watching, guys.